All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jack Miller with APPA, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to today's Public Power X webinar, Leveraging AMI Data to Improve Billing Accuracy. Our partner for today's webinar is Hansen Technologies, a global provider of software and services, including meter data management and billing, to the energy and utilities industry. Hansen is also a provider of industry-leading software and expertise that enables their customers to capitalize on commercial opportunities while upholding the highest standards of data privacy, cybersecurity, sustainability, and ethical practices. I'm joined today by our presenters, John Herron and Charlie Bauschard. John is a utilities industry consultant at Hansen with almost 40 years of experience. Most recently, he led engagement endeavors between Vertex One and prospective clients for 10 years and leverages extensive experience working with utility operational systems from companies like IBM, Oracle, Census, and of course, Hansen. Charlie is the Director of Public Utilities at the City of New Bern in North Carolina. He served in both the U.S. Air Force as a non-commissioned officer and the U.S. Army as a commissioned officer, interned at General Electric, and received his bachelor's in electrical engineering from Gannon University. For the next 10 years, he worked for American Electric Power, or AEP, where he held various engineering titles. He later served as the engineering manager for the Coldwater Board of Public Utilities, and most recently as the director of public utilities for the City of New Bern, North Carolina. He is also an active member of both Electricities of North Carolina and the American Public Power Association, where he has served as the past vice chair of the Reliable Public Power Provider, or the RP3 program. With that, I'll turn it over to Charlie.
Good afternoon, everybody. Glad to be here. Hopefully I can share a little bit of my experience and tie it towards the Hansen product and what their capabilities are, what we're looking to do as an industry, what you may be looking to do locally in your own communities. And if you can have one takeaway from what I say, then that'll make me happy. In general, New Bern, we're about 92 square miles. We're served with 115,000 kV volt transmission lines. We distribute voltage at about 23 kV, line to line, about 16,000 poles, about 22,000 or 2,200 miles of conductors. Have about 120 miles of our own fiber system. We don't retail our fiber, we just use it for our own operations. We have a water system and a wastewater system that we use as an enterprise service fund as well. And that's basically the summary of the system and where we're at. I personally had the opportunity to start up one AMI system and one MDM from concept through fruition and startup. That system is still being actively used today. And then I also had the opportunity to inherit one AMI system that was partially completed when I got involved with it. And I can speak a little bit about that as we go through this webinar.
Great. Well, thank you, Charlie. I appreciate you going through that with us. My name again is John Herron with Hansen, and I want to give you just a quick introduction to Hansen if you're not familiar with this. We've been in business for since 1971, currently headquartered out of Melbourne, Australia. But we do have a large operations in several countries, USA being one of the larger ones, where we do focus our products and solutions on the United States and Canada. Those applications include everything from CIS billing application to a meter data management and customer portal system. We've also developed a agent AI system now where customers calling into a call center can actually transact any type of business with the utility by working with an automated agent. So we do have over 62 million end-use customers being served by our platforms across the world, with over 600 utility clients that are working with Hansen. And we're currently in 80 countries as well. Just to kind of highlight some of our customers, we do work with all types of services. When I say that, I mean electric, water, gas, either any kind of metered or unmetered services. And we also work with organizations of any size. So you'll see a couple here. Los Angeles County Waterworks is a brand new customer that we just kicked off an implementation for, which is about 60,000 water customer accounts. We have several utilities that have electric and/or electric and water. We have the National Water Commission in the Jamaica area, and we also have Jamaica Public Service, which handles the electric. So those both have several 100,000 customer accounts. We also have the City of Columbia, South Carolina, and Virginia Beach. That is water, stormwater, wastewater types of accounts for over 100,000 customers. And then you'll just see in here some of the live dates. We've had several customers implement and go live in the last few years, and several that are currently going on in an implementation, one in the process of going live as we speak. So we're excited about that as well. Why it matters, what we're going to be talking about today is really all about meter data management and how do we get, the data first of all, and then second of all, what are we going to do with all the data? So I know some of you utilities that are here may already have AMI rolled out, or you may have had AMI for a while. And in that case, you may be talking about what's AMI 2.0? What's the next step, that we do now that we have AMI rolled out to get meter reads, to get some alarms and alerts from those meters. So AMI 2.0 is really taking that data now and really making use of that data for operational reasons as well, for forecasting, for identifying, potential leaks or things like that as well. So AMI 2.0 is just really leveraging the infrastructure and that's already been put in place and using it more for the operational side, as well as offering more information to the customers too. But what we find is customers and utilities roll out AMI. There's a lot of data, but the utility still faces some common problems. Still have billing disputes. We still have high call volumes within the utility. The customer themselves may have limited visibility into their consumption patterns, maybe consumption anomalies that they wanted to be alerted for. So customers are still getting high bills. They're still calling, they're still disputing those bills. We also have affordability is, one of the big topics that am continuously hearing where, utilities are trying to deal with affordability, trying to be able to provide equitable rates for all types of customers that they serve. And that provides some unique challenges and options as well. So, what we really find is the real opportunity is it's not collecting the data anymore. That was the real concern or opportunity several years ago. Now it's what do we do with that data? And Charlie had indicated that he, implemented one AMI system. He inherited an AMI system, so he's got some great experience kind of across the board of dealing with those certain generations of AMI systems, as well as being able to serve AMI for both electric and water. So there's kind of unique challenges based on the type of service that the utility is offering. What we've found traditionally in a lot of these AMI implementations is a meter data gap. And when I say that, what I mean is the data may be being collected, but it's not necessarily being exchanged and shared with other systems or other departments that would have some value and some usage of that data. So what I've seen in some deployments is when there's an implementation, there may be a disconnect between the operations side, which implements the AMI systems and supports the AMI technologies, but then getting the data from those systems into CIS for billing purposes. Also for the customer services teams to be able to drill down into consumption or maybe even transact, activities down to the meter. Maybe that's just pinging the reader for or the meter for a read, or it could be disconnecting the meter for a shut off purposes for non-pay or whatever the other reasons are. So being able to provide that information across other departments is becoming more and more important. We also want to make sure that any AMI data that we have, gotten from the AMI head-end systems, We're able to validate that information. We're also able to provide that to the billing system for billing and customer service, but also to the customer as well, to allow the customer to look at their consumption patterns, their usage profiles, set up communication thresholds based on, is my bill going to be 20 or 30% higher than average, or on the water side, notify me if I have a leak or if it looks like I have a leak. So we really want to be able to serve that data up to the portal as well, to allow the customer to collaborate with their provider to make sure there's no surprise bills, to make sure there's no excessive consumption as well. The issue is also not just access to data, but it's connecting those decisions to customer interactions. So, as I've indicated, we really want to try to notify customers that they potentially will have a high bill because there's a leak or excessive consumption. The earlier we can do that, the more opportunity that gives the customer to, change their behavior, or to look for leaks, or maybe, set their irrigation controller different. So, being able to not only just collect the data, but then communicate the customer what that data means, what it's telling us, and what they can potentially do about it. So if we're not delaying those responses to the customer's inquiries, we're able to respond immediately and provide them proactive information. Then we can help that customer, on their journey as being a customer of the utility. And what I've seen in a lot of deployments is a lot of times the utility goes in with an AMI system to maximize operational efficiencies without necessarily looking at how can we also operationalize and maximize the customer efficiencies as well. And so a lot of times there's a lag in that data. We get operations going really well. We're collecting a lot of data, but don't necessarily share that over to the customer directly for them to transact and make some decisions that benefit them as well. So one customer story we want to share with you today that we're excited about is the City of New Bern. Charlie gave you an introduction to their organization, but I wanted to see if Charlie could kind of walk through a little bit more about your business case, what drew you toward making a change, updating your technologies, and kind of how that process is coming along and what you're expecting out of it. All right, Charlie, I'll turn it over to you now.
Yeah, thanks, John.
Uh,
I agree with what you're saying, and I can probably ramble on a long time about this. The sky's really the limit when it comes to um, AMI and the next AMI 2.0, so to speak. Um, I guess I'd say ultimately, what we're trying to do is we're automating the meter to cash process. Um, and in order to do that, you'll have to think about your business rules. Um, and how do you set a meter? How do you read a meter? How do you move in a new customer? How do you move out a new customer? And with the use of an MDM integrated with your billing system and your AMI system, you'll be able to automate that process and organize your business rules and your needs around it. The great part about that is once you get it automated and you work out all those business processes within your organization, you can set alarms um, such that reports are automatic, that if the automation process breaks, if somebody moves a meter out or moves a meter in without following a step, the MDM integrated with the AMI system, integrated with CIS, that process will raise alarms and flag you in very near real time. And so you're discovering, I'm not going to say we're all going to be error free in the future, but you have the ability to discover these errors and resolve these errors in a very reasonable amount of time, which then impacts, future billing adjustments or editing or estimating challenges that take place as we discover errors that had passed months or weeks or years ago. We also have two steps now for validation. Um, so I'm not saying that everything's easier, but I think it is better and it has benefits. So we we now define our process. We validate um, meter reads. So our meter department has the responsibility of validating those reads from the AMI system into the MDM before the MDM gives it to the biller. There's no sense of giving the biller a missing read. There's no sense of giving the biller a bad read or a skipped read or something that the biller is just going to reject. So the metering department spent a lot of time um, in collaboration with billing and the operations folks working out that process and how do we validate what's a validated meter read. Once they have that validated meter read, they'll allow that meter read to go to the MDM, and the MDM gives that to the biller. The biller still now has the responsibility. They have to validate now all of the billing determinants that the MDM produces. So they still have to go through their part of validation as well. And that includes, the obvious things, high, low consumption, decreasing register, loss of power, missing intervals. If there's missing intervals, then there's processes that can be run based on your business rules. How do you want to estimate those missing interval reads, things of that nature. Am I answering your question, John?
Yes, yes, you are.
I can go on for a long time and keep me on track.
But I'm sure there'll be questions, as we get toward the end as well. Yeah, but yeah, keep going.
Trying to think what else I guess, just rambling here. If those that are just now getting started, I would advise folks to consider putting in an MDM. If you're putting in an AMI system, I'd take a close look at putting your MDM in first. And I would also start, if you have polyphase, large power meters, start with those. Start with your hardest ones first, your biggest cash flow. Protect that cash flow, work out that process, nail that down, nail that integration down. And that involves how the meter is programmed. Is that programming compatible with how the MDM wants it? All those details, and go through it in that stepped process. And then the rest of those meters, the rest of your commercial and your residential should be a lot easier to manage. You should have worked out those bugs along the way. My philosophy is I want a bare bones, dumb, interval capable meter married to a meter data management system that is really smart. I don't want any time of use switches. I don't want any calendar switches. I don't want any power factor correction switches in the meter. I just want the meter to read and store pure intervals based on my rules and register reads based on my rules. Deliver that to the meter data management system, and then the meter data management system has to be designed to be smart enough to sort through all of those intervals and registers and apply our business rules and our rate rules and come up with a billing determinant. And then once it comes up with that billing determinant and it's validated, then that billing determinant gets sent to um, the billing system to apply dollars to it. The other part that I'd like to maybe touch on, you kind of hit on it a little bit, John, was in very general terms, the power of AMI married with an MDM is better utility analytics, and an opportunity for more modernized rate design. And that's where my head's at right now with the community that I'm serving, and that seems to be our need. And it could vary across other communities and utilities, so it's customizable. But an example is to look for maybe opportunities to identify parent-child relationships between meter data and um, infrastructure. So what meter is tied to what substation, tied to what feeder, tied to what transformer. Let's add to that. Um, what rate are they on? What uh, meter reading route are they on? What billing cycle they are on? Um, then we start to get, if we start marrying these parent-child relationships between these integrated systems, then our ability to analyze and make decisions becomes a lot more powerful. I'm just trying to stay a day ahead of what tomorrow's question is going to be. That's all I'm trying to do. And, one question I may have tomorrow is what's the load profile for all of your residential rates in this particular area of your territory, Charlie, or on this particular substation, Charlie? Uh, uh, Without the AMI and without the MDM, I'm going to have a hard time guessing. So um, can't I can't forecast everything that I need, but all I'm saying is, as you go through this process, start thinking about those things of how to integrate. Um, Start easy, pick the easy fruit, pick the easy wins, and then these systems are powerful. You can add on to them. You can make them smarter without having to, change vendors and retool everything all at one time. What do
Yeah,
you think,
good.
John?
No, that's good. I appreciate that. I'm kind of curious, are you being driven toward implementing different rates, either for different types of customers or, customer demand? Is that moving you toward looking at your rating and how you're going to start charging customers in the future?
Yeah, yeah, good point. There's two parts to that. In my community, there is some discussion, some sensitivity towards, our utilities response to an attention towards low income. Um, and also the primary driver of the utility being pressured to have fair and balanced rates.
Mhm.
Um, right or wrong, the approach I'm taking right now, where the MDM is helping us get uh, to where we want to be, is I'm trying to, how do I say this, unbundle our a lot of our operating expense in our rates that we charge our customers. Over the years, they've evolved, and
Mhm.
in the volumetric charges, those volumetric charges are undoubtedly collecting some fixed operational expenses. So
Yeah.
what I want to do is I want to unbundle my operational expenses from my volumetric charges, pass on those operational expenses to my customers through a fixed um, charge, and just allow my volumetric charges to recover my wholesale power supply costs. I think that's the fairest thing I can do, whether you're low income or you're not. That's fair for everybody. You pay for what volume you use, and by rate class, you pay for what our cost to serve you is. Um,
Mhm.
and I can't do that without an MDM. And complicating the matter for us um, is that our wholesale power supply costs are have time of use components in them, specifically coincident peak demands um, for peak day and hour of the month ending. So I don't know my my coincident peak until after the month is concluded. So that's a big challenge for me to now pass on that pricing signal in a modernized rate design to my customers. But we have a plan. The MDM, it will allow us to go back in and put in that coincident peak day and hour at the end of the month, and we'll be able to calculate a billing determinant for those customers for that time period.
Mhm.
Um, are we there today? No, but like I said, I'm just trying to anticipate tomorrow's questions and just keep pace.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting that you brought up you really want the meter data management to kind of do the heavy lifting from data not only coming from the meter side, but also do some of the heavy lifting around those calculations and around determining what you want to bill on and how, and then just push that result to the CIS system. So it relieves the CIS system from having to be super intelligent and to how to do multiple calculations based on a volume of data and puts that down into the meter data management system.
That's right. I haven't found a CIS, customer information billing system, that can handle interval data, or any granular data at all. All they want is a billing determinant, period, decimal point, apply dollars to it. So
Mhm.
our meter data management is functionally the system of record for all raw meter reads, and it's a system of record for all validated meter reads. And then inside the meter data management system are business rules, particularly our rate structure. And based on, your high school algebra, math class where you had a word problem, it takes our rate and applies the narrative of our rate to searching for those intervals within that data mine, and comes up with that billing determinant and returns it to the billing system, and they can apply dollars to it there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Maybe I probably most of the people on this call that are from a public power organization have a very similar model, but I want to see if you could just kind of talk about the financial model that you work with under the confines of City of New Bern.
Sure. We're an enterprise service fund, electric, water, wastewater, solid waste. We don't, like I said before, we have a fiber system, but we don't retail that. We just use it for our own internal operations, and we do share it with the city for municipal operations as well. Um, we um, we pay, we contribute to the general fund. Some people say municipals are not for profit, but we really are for profit. And we generate revenue that we contribute to the city's general fund, which ultimately um, takes pressure off of tax increases. Um, so pretty typical to probably what most of the people on the webinar are accustomed to. Nothing really different or unusual there. We could argue about fair and percentages and how much value we bring, but um, very typical, municipal electric service provider, enterprise
Mhm.
service fund.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you covering that. Let's look ahead a little bit. You're in this process of doing this configuration and the implementation, and have some ideas of what you're expecting. But talk a little bit more about what you're expecting to gain from this project.
I'd like to get the utility in a position to be ready for tomorrow. And if you let me get on my soapbox, as an industry, I don't think we're there yet, but I think a lot of us are trying to get our own communities, our own utilities further along the path.
Hmm.
But um, even I was going to say in the past, but even now, what happens with with the way we do business is our customers um, use our services and they consume all month long. And after their consumption period's over, we take some time, we put a bill together, and maybe 20 days later or so, we send them a bill. We say, you use this much, pay us this much, thank you very much. And I think we can do better than that. I think, I think as an industry, as a local community, I would ultimately like to get us to the point where customers can make decisions just like they're going to the gas station. I know how much money I have in my pocket. I know how far I want to travel. I know how much gas I have in the car. I know what the price point is today on the car, on gasoline. I'll make a decision whether or not I want to put more gas in the car or I want to travel farther or less.
Hmm.
We're not there yet as a utility, as an industry, because of this technology is just now starting to be utilized. But I think in combination with an AMI and an MDM, we're getting closer to the point where we can give customers better pricing signals,
Mhm.
We can give them um, access to um, not only, their monthly usage, big deal. Okay, I knew I used that much last month and I knew it cost that much, but what did it cost me along the way? How much did I use on Tuesday? How much did I use on Wednesday? Um, and I think we're real close, especially with the Hansen MDM solution integrated with the Hansen CIS, is we haven't gone live with it yet, but our intent is our MDM will be linked to a customer service portal, so that customer will be able to see that granular data on their usage. Would I love real time? Yeah, but I'm not that greedy. Day after would be really, really nice.
Mhm.
That's kind of, a starting point. That's probably a little aggressive, but just so they can see what their usage is along the way, give them better pricing signals along the way, and then in that same customer portal, give them um, tools that they can interface with it. Okay,
Mhm.
my budget is X, you know, and my consumption pattern has leads me to believe by the end of the month I'm going to be over budget. Send me an alarm, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, you can do the same kind of things with on the water side too, with water leaks and that kind of stuff. But really, trying to give our customers access to that granular data that we now have in an AMI system, putting it at their fingertips and allowing them to use it and us being able to support it.
Sure. I'm curious, what do you expect to change for your users? And when I say your users, I'm talking about like your billing department, your customer services department. What do you expect to change for them?
Well, I think we're successful. I think immediately volume of phone calls will go down
Hmm.
because some of this stuff will be self-service.
Hmm.
And a lot of us would just prefer to resolve our own questions rather than try to communicate to somebody else what we're asking. So if I can go and look at my own data and look at my own consumption patterns and my own costs and do a lot of that on my own, I'm probably going to do that. If we're successful and that does happen, then that frees up my current staff to be more engaged and allow more time on complex matters with our customers.
Yeah, I think
Um,
that's interesting. You bring that up. What I've heard a lot of call centers saying is when these technologies get into place, they expected the call volume to go down, and it did, but the call handle time went up because they're dealing with
yeah,
more complex issues.
yeah. So hopefully at the end, the customer is better served and better supported. And but I don't see it as a cost savings means by just a better quality of service.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Charlie. I appreciate you sharing that with us. Wanted to jump into what we call part four here of the presentation before we run out of time. Just kind of talking about, some of the what actually works. What are some of the practical approaches? And we've covered a lot of this, but certainly the approach, I think the biggest advantage that Charlie's brought up is being able to connect multiple systems together and not have those silos of data. One of the nice things about the solution that Hansen is deploying at City of New Bern is it's the exact same meter data management system for all services. So he's going to be able to, go in and look at information on water utility services and electric utility services on the same platform. Now they're going to have different measurements. They're going to have different criteria that we look at for setting up alarms and alerts. But at least it's all in one system now. And then, of course, that makes the integration so much easier when you have one system that you're integrating to downstream from gathering the AMI reads. And when I say downstream, I mean like to the CIS and to the portal. We did talk about, the system does take care of full VEE, validation, editing, and estimation. And you can set up those estimation routines based on criteria that make sense to you for the utility specific service. The biggest advantage of that is really we want to handle all of the exceptions within the meter data management system and not wait for your CIS system to handle those exceptions, validations of, excessive usage or low usage or no usage, those kind of criterias, and then filling the gap where we don't have reads by estimating what that read should be. So that allows you to be able to improve your billing, confidence. It allows the customer to have earlier access to the consumption, to be alerted, when there are maybe particular anomalies about their usage. And then finally, just, enabling visibility. In the past with AMI 1.0, a lot of times that was all in the operations department. They got all the alarms, they got all the alerts, they got all of the reads. CIS would just dip down into it once a month, pick up a read and do a bill. But now you're really getting some visibility throughout multiple departments on what's really going on with your customers. So that allows some huge advantages to be able to deploy that information across multiple systems. And then finally, I put down here, Charlie touched on this, being able to move intelligence and calculations out of the head-end system. And you may have several. That was Charlie's, issues. There were several AMI systems there or head-end systems. It's being able to move the calculations and intelligence out of that and into a meter data management system. It also allows you to let the meter data management system do those real complex calculations and then feed the information to CIS. Part of that functionality of being able to do complex calculations is also the ability to set up virtual meters. So you can combine multiple meters into one specific calculation if you want to look at district metering, or if you want to look at consumption, across, from one distribution point to the end use customers to identify if there's potential line loss or leakages or something like that. So it really allows you a lot more functionality that we can put into the MDM system to do those complex calculations. And so one of the other things I just wanted to point out is a lot of times utilities will think that they need to change out, their CIS platform because they have AMI. And what we're talking about is that that may not necessarily be true because we can put a lot of that intelligence in an MDM system, which is a lot lower cost to implement, a lot easier to support, and it's not having to change out necessarily that big CIS system, which is an expensive solution. It's your cash register, so we want to be really cautious about changing out systems if it's not necessary. The last thing I wanted to talk a little bit about before we allow you to submit some questions and try to answer those for you is where do we go next? So we've talked about AMI 1.0, we've talked about AMI 2.0. Where are we going to be going to next? Certainly, data growth is going to continue. We're going to have expectations continuing from your customers, from those organizations that manage your utility, whether that's city council members or maybe it's districts of council or county organizations. Your customers are going to continue to demand and expect more from you. I know I live in a territory where my water and electric is both provided by my city, and we had some major outages in the last couple of years, and I got real frustrated that I didn't know, first of all, that there was an outage if I wasn't home, and second of all, when was the expected restoration time, and then a confirmation when the outage had been restored. So, I think we're going to start seeing more and more customer expectations with a user experience that they get from other types of organizations that they deal with. And I think the important thing is whatever you're building now is important. So like Charlie said, he wants to lay a really good, strong foundation here with the AMI and the meter data management system so that in the future they can look at and be prepared for what's changing, whether that's rates or services themselves, collection strategies, whatever else the utility needs to move into next, wherever city council or your governing bodies want to direct you, you're prepared to be able to do that. And so I think building that strong foundation right now is very important. So with that, I think we've ended maybe a couple minutes early. So I'm going to open it up and see if we have any questions or comments that anybody would like to make.
Thank you very much, John and Charlie. Lots of good information and lessons learned shared there. Um, First question we have from the chat is, does your utility have, and this is for Charlie and New Bern, does your utility have a data engineering or data science team on staff or role?
No, we don't. We have a very talented analyst, though, um, and we recognize that as technology grows, um, we have um, a lot of power users, and we recognize the fact that as the technology grows, we have to have some level of support beyond just the power user. So one of our engineering position is really focused on technology. So it's great for me. I can come in and say, hey, let's do an MDM. That's real great. Let's start up. I'll sign the contract. Oh, everybody's ready, set, go, get to work. And then who owns it at that point in time? The power user? That that's okay for a little while, but we felt it best that we have somebody that really, has the skill and the interest in technology. So this staff engineer in our case, they take care of OMS, AMI for the most part, um, IVR, SCADA, MDM. Um, they are supportive where those systems integrate other systems like the billing system. And that's about it. It's not too fancy.
Great, thanks, Charlie. And this one I think makes is more for the Hansen side. They say we've noticed some issues with AMI, missing intervals, double intervals, unrealistic MDM estimates for missing intervals, data mismatch between AMI data, vision, and MDM data, iView. Are others in the industry having any of these problems and any suggestions or best practices to mitigate?
Yeah, I will say I've noticed it's kind of interesting when new systems go in like this. A lot of times the thresholds for communications for sending a truck out to read or something like that gets set really really tight. And I think sometimes that creates a lot of additional work for the utility that was not necessary. And so I think one way is when you first implement the systems. Set those thresholds a little bit higher so that you don't get so many errors. And then you can start refining that as you move forward to make sure you're getting an appropriate amount of errors and make sure you know what truly is an error. Because I think what happens a lot of times, depending on how strong your AMI system is, you may be missing several reads in there, and then they may bulk up and all, come in after you've already estimated and you need the system to be able to drop the estimated reads and fill it with the corrected reads. And if that process is not clearly defined, then you could end up with some systems that you're talking about here, like data mismatches and missing intervals. So, we really try to work with the utility to make sure that we have a really high percentage of reads coming in from the head-end system first. If we're missing a lot of reads or even meters, complete meters, we're not getting any reads. We want to try to fix those issues up front before we try to feed that data into the meter data management system and try to have it do all those machinations and calculations that it really shouldn't have to be doing. So I'm not sure if that answered your question specifically, but I have seen that in a few situations.
I think that does answer it. And also, of course, feel free to reach out to either APPA membership to connect you with John or the email that you see there on your screen if you have any follow-up questions. Or, of course, we have another 14 or so minutes. So if you want to ask a follow-up question live, that works too. Next question we have is, have you heard from customers regarding their experiences with the changes you've made? And if so, what has their response been?
I would assume that would be for Charlie. So and I'll kind of jump in. We are implementing the system now at New Bern, so it hasn't gone live and it actually affected the customers yet. So, that question may be a little premature for us, but I can tell you from other experiences, usually it's a good result, especially when the customer starts receiving alerts and notifications that they haven't received in the past. They start appreciating the fact that the utility is looking out for their best interest. So if they get alerts about a potential high bill, or they may have a leak or something like that, the customer is usually very pleased with that. If they get communications around outages, they're excited that they're actually getting that information, that the customer or the utility knows they're out without them having to call, and that the customer knows that service has been restored. So I think, generally the response has been good. There have been some situations where in the past the meter may have not been reading well. It may have been inaccurate reading, or the utility may have had to estimate for several times in a row due to not having access to the meter or having a bad communications device. And then all of a sudden the customer gets a high bill. And so in some of those situations, the customer's upset and they're like, well, it's because you implemented a new system. That's why my bill's high. And it's really not the case, right? It's just that in the past you had to estimate, or there were other reasons that you weren't able to give an accurate bill, and now you finally are able to give them an accurate bill. So that's a one-time anomaly that you get over, and then from then on, the customer's getting accurate bills. All
Anything
right.
to add on that from your side, Charlie?
It's all good. We haven't, we're live with the Hansen CIS for a little over a year. Um, Rolled it out, no problem.
Mhm.
The customer portal side of that is still being developed in conjunction with integrating with the MDM. So not a lot of user interaction there. However, when we did go live with the Hansen system, we were able to utilize some of their newer technology and capabilities to improve our bill print services. And along with those bill print services, there's some other ancillary services that go along with those type of service providers that we've got a lot of positive feedback on. Of course, anytime you're making a change, anytime um, your information can be found in a new place or changes location, you're going to get a few calls. So it's important to have somebody in-house that is really championing these type of integrations, these type of systems. And call them a project manager if you want to, that can make sure all of this stuff is coordinated amongst all the other operational units, and then ultimately with the customer and messaging that needs to go out, and you stay ahead of the game. But it's all very manageable. We're a medium-sized utility, obviously, so I don't have a lot of extra resources, and we all wear a lot of different hats. But it's manageable. You get a couple complaints here and there. I'm sure when we roll out the new portal, somebody will be disappointed about something, but that will leave us to probably, a better solution. Um, and it probably won't take us as long to come up with that solution. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Charlie. We have another question in the chat for someone who I think must be working undercover for the Hansen marketing team, but they said, how would we go about seeing a demo and learning more about how Hansen could help us specifically better utilize AMI, MDM, and CIS?
If that wasn't a plant, that's a great question. Uh, the screen, hopefully, that I'm still have up and sharing, gives you an email there. So just feel free to send an email to us, and we'll get that and get you in touch with the right person, just to discuss, where you are in your journey, and give you some insight, some input, and see if there's anything that we can help you with there. I'll also paste that email address into chat if you just want to copy it and paste it into an email or into your notes for the future.
Great. Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Another question we have is how do you deal with meters losing connectivity, especially high profile customers or large users?
So I'll jump in and then if I miss anything, Charlie, you can jump in as well. One of the nice things about the meter data management system is it's expecting reads to come in all the time. And so at any given time, if there's a read that has not come in, and you can set that threshold of when you want to notify somebody that a read has not come in, then we can have that initiate a service order to go out into the field to check the meter or to check the communication device or the collection device, all the way through that network to the head end to the meter data management system to try to figure out where the problem is. But we do have, really strong capabilities of identifying when you've missed reads, how often have you had to estimate, are there reads, that we're getting a read, but it shows no consumption and there should be consumption, or maybe we're getting a read, but the meter is not installed at a location. So we've got consumption going on, but somehow it's not matching with the information we're getting from CIS that the meter hasn't been installed yet. So we call that an orphan meter. We get the reads. Now we have to go find where is that meter to make sure we're getting the reads, get the customer information to connect it to billing purposes. But I think identifying those very early on allows you to take the necessary corrective action. Most of the time, it is a truck roll to the field to figure out why the read's not coming through with the other reads.
In New Bern's case, that it's very routine in nature. We have our business rules set up. We've argued about it amongst staff and sorted it all out. What's acceptable, what's not acceptable. We get daily reports, and there's sometimes missing reads are acceptable for a period of time. There's a reason for it, and we have a process that checks for that. So we don't have to spend a lot of time rolling a truck on every single one, and then the system will then, if the reads become available, they'll fill back in. Um, and the other good part about it too is at some point in time, you have a register read before and after these missing reads. So anything you fill in between as an estimate, you can put the bandwidths on your own validation rules, but you're not going to be far off. It's a lot better than a manual billing staff person trying to sort through it and manually come up with an estimate on a bill that needs to go out tomorrow.
Thank you both. For New Bern, which AMI system are you implementing?
We are 100% deployed on electric with Cooper Eaton, the Yukon platform. Water is probably, my staff might argue with me if they heard me, maybe 90% deployed, largely because water AMI technology lags electric AMI technology. And then the uniqueness of some of our locations is that we have some water and wastewater only customers that are in non-electric meter territories. So that adds for a little awkwardness there as far as being 100% AMI. Hopefully that answers the question. And if you're now just shopping for an AMI system, if you're starting from the very beginning, I would just say that try not to get hung up too much in cost comparisons. Find the solution that fits your current infrastructure and your current system configuration. If you can put an AMI system in without having to change all of your meters, think about it. If you have fiber or broadband in your system to use, think about how to use that. They're all these systems are pretty capable, but get one that is best compatible with your current infrastructure, your current equipment, and then make it work. Figure it out.
Um, Charlie, they were somebody had asked which system was it for water AMI? It's different for electric, right?
No, we still come in through Yukon.
Through Yukon.
Um,
Okay.
I we have we have different parallel paths to the MDM. I'm
Hmm.
kind of splitting hairs. So AMI, we use a Neptune system in some cases for some water reads.
Hmm.
We use a handheld Itron for some water reads. Um, they get back um, the AMR handheld reads and the pure AMI water reads get back to the Yukon system. The point I guess I'm trying to clarify or help with is that now all of those different methodologies have a parallel path into the MDM. So I need a path to get my AMI reads into the MDM. I need to get a path to get my AMR reads into the MDM. I have to have a path to have any manual reads that I get into the MDM. I've got some flat file stuff out there that's a long story. I won't go into it, but I have some weird stuff out there. And I'm pretty stubborn that the MDM is our system of record for raw meter reads. So however we're reading it, I want it in the MDM. So as you go through your own unique utility, configurations and your systems, give that some thought of how many different ways are you actually reading the meter and
Hmm.
getting it into your current billing system now, because or from your AMI, yeah, into your billing system now, whether it's through AMI or through pen and paper and a bill register.
We've got time for one more question here. For the areas that are water or wastewater only, are you installing AMI water meters or are they already installed? I believe that's for Charlie.
Um, we are changing them to cellular. Um, and then they're coming in not through, they're not connecting to the electric meter, if that's what you're asking. They're coming in independently from a
Okay.
water node through cellular communications.
And then one more snuck in here. Maybe we have time to answer one more really quickly, but do you have an opt-out program for manual meter reading? If so, how are you collecting those reads?
No way. No, we don't do that.
I've seen more and more utilities do that lately, say that's not an option. We're going to install AMI. It's going to be for everybody. If you want service, that's what you'll get.
That's right.
So,
I don't have a rate for you. I can't even, it'd probably be hard to find an analog meter today. And I've had people ask for it. No, I don't have that capability to offer you.
mhm.
Easy answer. Well, that's all we have time for. Thank you so much to our colleagues from Hansen Technologies and the City of New Bern for taking the time to share their expertise with us and for of course, their dedicated support to Public Power and APPA. As I mentioned before, you'll receive a follow-up email containing a link to the slides and the recording in the next few days. We'll also include a very brief survey and would appreciate any feedback that you have on today's session. Also, don't forget to check out our podcast channel where you'll be able to access an audio version of today's presentation. Just search Public Power X, all one word, no spaces, on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Thanks again for joining us and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.